Your plant isn't overwatered because you gave it too much water. It's overwatered because the water had nowhere to go, and your roots have been sitting in it ever since. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in this list, and by the end, you're going to understand exactly why and precisely what to do about it. These are 9 specific biology-backed habits that genuinely changed how my plants look and grow, and every single one of them is something you can start today. So let's start with something that sounds almost too simple. If you have a trailing plant, a tradescantia, a string of hearts, a pothos, and it's sitting in a pot with long vines hanging over the edge, try this. Take one of those vines and lay it back across the surface of the soil. Pin it down gently with a hairpin or a piece of bent wire, just so it stays in contact. That's it. That's the whole thing. Here's why it works. Along every vine, at every point where a leaf meets the stem, there's a node. And that node, the size of your thumbnail, is capable of producing both a root system and an entirely new stem from nothing. In the wild, trailing plants creep along the forest floor and attach at every node they touch, which is how a single plant can spread across an entire patch of ground. You're mimicking that exact behavior. Within a few weeks, those pinned nodes will root directly into the pot, and your plant will look dramatically fuller. Not because you bought a new one, but because you gave the one you have a surface to attach to. Now, this next one scares people, and I completely understand why. Pruning feels like you're hurting the plant. But here's what's actually happening. When you cut the growing tip off a stem, the plant redirects its energy. Instead of continuing that single vine outward, it pushes out 2 new shoots from just below the cut. Every single time. That's not a coincidence, it's basic stem biology. The apical meristem at the tip is suppressing lateral buds, and the moment you remove it, those buds activate. So the plant you were afraid to touch becomes the fullest plant on your shelf. Start with just one stem. Watch what happens in the next 2 weeks, and you will never hesitate again. While you're looking at your plant, check the soil surface. Are there any fallen leaves sitting on top? Dead leaves on the soil are not just an aesthetic problem. They're a food source and a breeding ground. Fungus gnats lay their eggs in the top layer of moist organic matter, and decaying leaves right at the crown of your plant are exactly the environment they're looking for. Remove them, not occasionally, every time you water. It takes 15 seconds, and it actively disrupts the pest cycle before it starts. And while you're there, rotate the pot 90 degrees. Plants grow toward light. That's phototropism, and it is extremely literal. If your plant only ever faces one direction, you'll end up with one lush side and one sparse side, and it doesn't matter how good the light is. 90 degrees every time you water. That's the whole habit. Over time, every side gets equal exposure, and the plant grows evenly in every direction. If you're finding these useful, go ahead and hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this. And we've still got 4 more tips to get through, and honestly, these last ones are the ones that made the biggest difference for me. Have you ever bottom watered? If not, this is the one. Instead of pouring water into the top of the pot, set the whole pot in a container of water and let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. The soil wicks the water up from below, which does 2 things. First, it encourages roots to grow downward toward the water source, rather than circling at the top of the pot looking for moisture. Deeper roots mean a healthier, more stable plant long term. Second, the top layer of soil stays dry, and dry topsoil is genuinely hostile to fungus gnats because that's exactly where they lay their eggs. Bottom watering is simultaneously a root health strategy and a pest prevention technique. Do it every other watering and watch what changes. Now, if you have a monstera, a philodendron, or anything that climbs in its natural habitat, stake it. Give it a moss pole, a wooden dowel, something vertical to attach to. Here's the part most people don't know. Vining plants produce significantly larger leaves when they're growing vertically. In a rainforest, climbing toward the light canopy is how these plants survive, and leaf size scales with height because bigger leaves capture more light at greater elevations. That plant you have sprawling across a shelf? It's producing small leaves because it has no reason to produce large ones. Give it something to climb, and within a few months you will have a genuinely different looking plant, bigger leaves, stronger stems, and a presence that fills a room. While you're examining your plants, run a finger across the top of a leaf. If it feels dusty, that's not just a cleaning problem. It's a photosynthesis problem. A layer of dust physically blocks the light the leaf needs to produce energy. The plant is less efficient, growth slows, and the coloring can dull. Wipe the leaves with a damp cloth every few weeks. Not a cleaning product, not a leaf shine spray, just a damp cloth. It takes 2 minutes for a whole plant, and the difference in how they look afterward is immediate. Now, repotting. The signs are specific and you can check for them right now. Roots circling visibly at the bottom of the pot, roots pushing out of the drainage hole, or soil drying out completely within a day of watering. When you see any of those, it's time. But go up only 1 to 2 pot sizes. I know it's tempting to give the plant room to grow, but an oversized pot holds too much moisture around the roots for too long, and that's how you get root rot. The roots can't absorb water fast enough. The excess sits in the soil, and you end up with the exact problem you were trying to prevent by giving the plant more space. 1 to 2 sizes up, every time. And the last one, air circulation. This one is so easy to overlook, and honestly, it took me an embarrassingly long time to appreciate how much it matters. Stagnant air encourages fungal disease, creates humid pockets where pests thrive. And this is the part I find genuinely fascinating. Plants actually develop stronger, thicker stems when they experience gentle movement. In the wild, stems flex in the breeze and respond by growing denser cell walls. You don't need a wind machine. Open a window occasionally. Run a fan on a low setting in the room. Give your plants some space so air can move between them. That's all it takes. So here's what all 9 of these have in common. They're not about doing more. They're not about buying a new fertilizer or a special soil or a grow light. They're about doing the right small things consistently with an understanding of why they work at a biological level. Pin the nodes, cut the tips, clear the dead leaves, rotate the pot, bottom water, stake the climbers, wipe the leaves, size the pot correctly, let the air move. Each one of those habits is the plant equivalent of giving something exactly what it was built for, mimicking the conditions it evolved to thrive in, not just survive in. And once you start thinking about plant care that way, not as a checklist of tasks, but as a genuine conversation with something that has its own biology, its own rhythms, and its own logic, everything gets easier, and everything looks better, dramatically better. Before you go, drop a comment and tell me which one of these surprised you most, or which one you're going to try first. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know.